All right, you love control. You love feeling in control, whether it's about what you wear, what you look like, what you eat, what your business is doing, what your kids are doing, whatever it is, right? And it's not a bad thing necessarily to want to feel in that control. And like it does bring about some really good qualities. So like you are somebody who handles it, you get stuff done, like you are the researcher, you are the backup plan, like you have such good things going for you. But the problem with always wanting to control everything, like everything, is that it makes you so tired. And like, yes, obviously sleep will help, but it's like, it's that tired where you're like, I just don't want to think about this anymore. Or like when somebody asks you, like, where do you want to go for dinner? And you're like, I don't even care. Like, I can't even think about it. Like somebody else pick, right? Like you want that control, but it's like at some point you just kind of have that breakdown, right? And the reason I want to talk to you about control right now is because I've been going through a lot with this with certain clients of mine, in varying capacities. So one of them is about like some health stuff that's coming up, and she just like really wants to know the information, like with the glucose monitor and with different hormone levels and stuff like that. And that's not a bad thing if it's rightly ordered. And then I have another client who is dealing with some like employee stuff, and she just really wants to like control everything, which if you run a business or even if you run a household and you have people come in and help you, like you know that you can't control what people do, right? You can give them guidelines and things like that, but you can't actually control things. And so this is something that has been coming up a lot recently, so I wanted to talk about it. Okay. And I wanted to just insert very briefly. I haven't given like my full story about this, but I know what it feels like to want to be in control. I struggled with an eating disorder for 5 years. It was not not good. It led to a lot of really rough health, emotional, spiritual, different issues in my life. And so the root of all of that, though, that I was going through was a desire for control because something else in my life felt uncontrollable. Okay. And so that's really what we're going to get into. And I know for sure that so many women that I've talked to have had experiences like that, similar, maybe not like a full blown disorder, but like feeling like they need to control certain things. And it starts like way back, even in your teens. Okay. And the reason why you want control is because at some point control kept you safe. And your body learned, if I can control X, then Y will or will not happen. All right. And like, the reason for that is because something along the way was unpredictable. Remember, all our body wants to do is to be able to predict what's going to happen next. That's literally the point of the nervous system. It's not knowledge, it's prediction, to say like, okay, where's the lion going to jump out of? Like I can predict it's going to jump out of here, right? And so your body's just predicting or trying to predict what's going to happen. And in order to help with that, it wants to reduce any danger, potential danger, by controlling the variables. Okay. And so this could be from a variety of different things. Again, this is a program that is inside of you that you learned whenever you were a young child, because you had to predict what was going to happen based off of your own behavior, yes, but also those around you. Okay. And so I'm just going to give some examples to help you make sense. Maybe like your mom was the one who kind of set the temperature of the house, and like you were able to really predict what her behavior was, or sorry, not behavior, behavior, what her emotions or feelings were just based off of like the way that she took her coat off or something like that. Or maybe like a parent left or drank or like did things that were not appropriate for parents to do, and then never told you like, I'm sorry I did that. Or like, this is why I did that. It's not okay. I'm working on it, whatever it is. This could be around something that happened at school. This could be around anything really. Okay. Typically it's around parents or parental figures, just because of the way that we are wired to attach, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. And so what this means though, is that you got really good at control, and not control in the sense of like, I can control others, but in the sense of you try to control what's around you, or what you have the ability to manipulate so that you could predict what was going to happen. Okay. And you got really, really good at it. So to control things, let's just go back to the mom example for a second. So say your mom had a really rough day. She comes in, you can tell the way that she like takes her coat off that she's like super stressed and frustrated. And so you learned, if I can do, if I can, I don't even know, let's just say, if I can get her a glass of water, whatever it is, and hand it to her before she even like has to think about I need a glass of water, then that kept everybody from getting blown up on. Okay. So that was your way of trying to control things. And you're still doing it today as an adult. Maybe not by getting somebody a glass of water, but by trying to say, oh, if I do this, then this thing won't happen. Okay. And again, this is not a bad thing. It's just information that we need to figure out, one, why it's there, what it's actually about, and then how to release it. Okay. So with that, control is what you do when you don't believe that you are being supported or that you are being held. Like that's ultimately the root of it all. I literally have a program called Held because it's all about we need to be able to be held by God the Father and held by the people in our lives. And a lot of us don't feel like we can be held, we can be supported, we can just be ourselves because we're always having to predict and try to control the outcome because it doesn't feel safe to allow others to do that for us. And so like that's the root of it, where somewhere deep down, you're not sure that anybody's actually going to like try to support you or to catch you or to take care of you. And so what you do is you plan for potential disasters. You plan for potential future outcomes. And that means that you can't rest, right? That means that you can't just say like, you can't clock out. You can't say like, I need 10 minutes, like husband, you take care of things, because you're always like, well, what's the husband going to do during those 10 minutes? Or with your clients, it could be like, or let's say you have a team. You're like, I really need to take some time off of this business, or like I'm going away with family. I need everybody else to just take care of things. And so you give them a list, but then you're always thinking like, are they doing it the way that I want them to do it? Or are they just doing it the way that they want to do it? Right. So even if they're getting it done, it's like, but it's not my way, because having somebody else take care of things feels really unsafe. Right. And so what you've become really good at is being your own provider, protector, safety net. So basically you are the one who is always just taking care of you and therefore everybody else, because that makes you feel safe. And again, this could be around literally any form of control. And we all do this to some extent, right? Every single person does. But it's whenever it becomes overwhelming or it becomes almost like that personality habit where it's like, I have to control these things because I'm so scared if I don't, then XYZ is going to happen. And just to be super candid, I really struggle with this sometimes because we are like a very low screen household. We have a TV in our basement that is, I think it's 15 years old. It's like super old. It doesn't even have streaming apps on it. And my husband for Christmas bought the kids a Nintendo 64, which is like literally from the 90s. Like it doesn't connect to the internet. Our TV doesn't even connect to the internet. But whenever I leave to go like do our horses or to work or anything like that, I always get so anxious. Not always now, but I used to get super anxious that he was just going to let them play video games for hours and hours on end. And he never did. Like, so it's an irrational fear that I had, but I would always try to control it and be like, before you guys do anything, I need you to do all of these other things, and hoping that those all other things would keep them from going downstairs and playing games. Okay. And so that was my way of trying to control things, because I was afraid, and I was also projecting what I learned is like, basically as a kid, that you can just sit in front of the TV and like, that was okay because you weren't worth being played with or talked to or anything like that. And so I projected that upon him. And even though that was never, ever his intent, like he's down there playing them with like, it's like Super Smash Brothers and stuff like that. He's down there playing games with them and like having fun with them. But because of my past experience, I was trying to control the situation because I don't want my kids to feel like I felt, right? So just a quick example there. And it took a lot of work for me to actually release this lie that like, actually there's a few different lies, that I like that the TV is the babysitter, right? Like that's not the case. My husband's literally downstairs playing with them, that I'm not worthy enough to be played with, like all of these different lies that I struggled with that then translated into my relationships with him, with my kids, into this business, because I have these thoughts where it's like, if I'm not being super productive all the time, then XYZ will happen. So therefore I try to control things so that XYZ doesn't happen. And it's not logical. Like you can, from the outside, I can see like, this does not make sense. But when you're in it, like you can't necessarily see that. Okay. And so I don't know if that helped you to see how it shows up in your life, but really start to think like, what am I trying to control? Even if it's like the silliest thing, like the type of soap that you use, I don't know, whatever. And again, some of these things are not bad. We just want to make sure that they're rightly ordered and that you're not obsessing about them too. All right. And the reason for all of these different lies is because of, right, the fall. So what's so interesting, if you read about the fall, the serpent does not ever actually tell Eve to like be evil. And we were just doing this in our homeschool with sin of omission versus commission. And it's like so interesting to think about, where the evil one says like, you will be like God, like take it in your own hands. Like you don't need to wait for God. Like don't trust that he's good and he'll take care of it. Right. Because basically that's kind of what we're all saying to ourselves, right? Like if you had to put your name into this. So I'll do it for myself. Like, Brigid, don't wait on God. Brigid, don't trust that he's good. Brigid, don't leave it up to him, right? Like how many of us are doing that all the time? We're really struggling with that. And it's just human nature. Again, it's because of the fall, but we just really have to be super aware of these wounds that we have and to try to heal them so that we can release them as best we can, right? Now, again, this is not going to be this linear thing that you just like magically get healed. I mean, it could be, if that's God's will, but most of the time it's going to be a process that you then have the tools, like after you work with me, that you then have the tools to see this is what's coming up, this is how I heal it, and I can move forward. That's not to say that it's never ever going to come up again, but it's to say that you're then going to have the awareness, which is like literally the first step. You have to have that awareness. Okay. And so this idea of control is really not about like the soap or the Nintendo or the launch that you're doing or the supplement you take or like your husband not doing certain things or we're doing certain things. It's truly about like you as a little kid who learned that you had to hold up the whole world because you weren't sure anybody else would. And now again, this is not necessarily the truth, but this is your perception of it and what you believe, right? And so this is why, like, if you're super into planners or productivity or organizing or whatever, if you are doing it from a disordered place, if you're saying, oh, if I just have this one more planner, if I just get this one more thing, then everything will be fixed. That's what I mean by disordered placed. Because you're not going to fix that idea of control by just like buying something or doing one more thing or anything like that. You have to first fix it by dealing with the actual wound that like you don't believe that you are held, that you are supported, that you are taken care of. Okay. And again, it's a slow process, but once you have that awareness, it is huge. So how do you even get there? Like, say that you are aware and now you want to release it. One of the things that I really appreciate, but also cannot stand are like, you know, the stickers or the bumper stickers where it's like, let go and let God. Like, yes, that's such a beautiful thing, but it's like, but how do you do that? And I was at a conference I guess a couple months ago now. Wow. And all these beautiful speakers were saying how you just have to like release it. You have to let God take care of it. And I wanted to like raise my hand and be like, I understand that, but I sometimes don't know how to do that. And like, I do know how to do that because of what I do, but I was talking to this one woman named Jenny beside me, and she was like, how do we do this? Like, nobody's telling us how to do these things, right? And I mean, I can always learn. And so I want to hear what other people say. How do you let go and let God, right? And so I'm going to give you my parts of my framework. It's not the whole thing, but some parts of my framework so that you can actually start to let go and let God. And it's not just like this fun saying to say, right? So the first thing that you have to do is you have to know what is actually yours and what is God's, right? Now, obviously everything is God's, but God does give us some responsibility to take care of, okay? And with that in mind, like, it's a fine line between like almost scrupulosity and sloth, or like pride and sloth, because surrender doesn't mean that you just like do nothing, right? Like if you look at, what is it? The manna in the desert, where it's like God rained down bread every morning, but at first the people were like, what is this? And then the people had to get up and go gather it, right? So like he didn't sit there and say, just everybody lay in bed and I'll just like spoon feed this into your mouth as you're laying in bed, right? No, God literally was like raining stuff down upon them. And it was their job to go out and gather it every morning. Okay. So your job is to do the gathering, which is like the work that he has put in front of you. So it's to answer the voicemail. It's to answer the email from a client. It's to have the hard conversation. Like, it's to schedule the appointments. It's to do whatever God's put in front of you. That's yours, and you have to do it well. What's not yours is the outcome, right? So like, if you did all the things, quote unquote, to like make the launch successful and it doesn't convert, that's not necessarily your problem, right? Yeah, sure, we could talk messaging and we can talk marketing and like all those different things. But ultimately, if God wants something to happen, like, he's going to make it happen, even if you do a not great job at marketing, right? And you've probably seen this if you're in business, where you're like, that person's marketing is horrible. Like, how in the world are they doing so well? And it's because, again, like, at some point, even if they're not faith-based, at some point, it's like God's taken over. And for some reason, or there's two things, I guess. God either like blessed it, or God said to the devil, like, you can take this, but like, just like in Job, right? Okay. Not going to get into that right now. And so same thing with like whether a treatment works out. So say you're using, like, your kid needs certain treatments or whatever's going on, right? It's not your job to determine or to force outcomes. Your job is just to do the work, right? And so like St. Paul says, essentially, like, I planted, I watered, but then God has to give the growth. In farming, like, we grow hay here. It's not been a great hay season because everything is going well, and then it gets super, super dry, and we don't have irrigation or anything like that. So it's like, we literally cannot water this hay. We cannot go around and pull out every single weed. It's just simply not feasible or possible. And so therefore, it's like, we just have to do what we can do. We can fertilize, we can water as best we can. We can try to control some of the weeds, but we cannot do everything. Okay. And so that's really the first thing, is, again, figuring out, one, why you feel like you need to control everything. And then two, allowing yourself to do what's yours to do, and then allow God to do what's God's to do. The second thing is, let's stick with the manna example, is, remember he said, like, you can't store it. And so basically, like, if you hoarded the bread to feel safe about tomorrow, like, it would rot and there would be like worms and stuff in it. Same thing with you right now. Now, this is not to say not to be prudent. That is not what I'm saying. I'm trying to take a very literal example from the Bible here. So say that you want 6 months of income in your bank, or you want like the stockpiled pantry, or you want the wait list of people, right? That's wonderful and good if it's coming from a rightly ordered place, right? Because what's so interesting is God tells us to just be in the present. Again, to be prudent, but to not stockpile. I forget the verse, but where it talks about, the talents. That's what it is, right? So it's like, yeah, we don't want to bury our talents and just stick our head in the sand, but we also want to be prudent, right? And not just gamble everything away. And so there's this that's where the discernment comes in. And so, like, give us our daily bread, right? Not like the year's bread, but today's bread. And so we have to stop trying to secure a future and like trying to manipulate the future and trying to make what we want it to look like. We have to allow him to do whatever he needs to do with it. Okay. The third is you have to, and this is where the wound healing comes in. You have to heal it in your body, not just your head. Okay. Your subconscious is so good at holding on to this control, right? Literally so good at it, because that is what taught you that you were safe. And we can get all into the brain chemistry and all that, but I'm not going to. Literally, it's a pathway that you are running. You have to break that pathway. You have to tell your nervous system through the vagus nerve that the danger is past. Your body will argue with it at first. You're not going to like it. But then you have to allow yourself to be healed and to open your hands anyway. And if you're struggling to open your hands, I did a podcast on this a few weeks ago, where it's okay if you're struggling to open your hands, but you at least have to put your hands out with the palms facing up, or ideally palms facing up. But if your hands are so clenched, put your hands up and say, God, I need you to just gently open my fingers, because I can't seem to open them. I cannot let this control go. And you have to allow God to help you release that control, because you don't necessarily have to do it on your own either. And then the fourth thing you want to do is you want to let your body actually see that there is evidence that everything is okay. Okay. And so it sounds simple, and it is actually quite simple. It's hard to do though. Your brain, again, is a very predictive machine. So it will brace for disaster that it is like 1,000% sure is coming. It's probably not coming, but that's what it feels like. And so whenever you're able to release that control and the disaster does not come, you're actually rewiring the old code. Okay. And so just for a practical step I want you to take this week, I want you to pick just like one thing that you would normally try to control or manage. Even if it's like, and actually it should be like the simplest thing. It could literally be like, I don't even know, having your husband answer an email instead of you, having one of your team members answer an email instead of you, having, I don't even know what else it could be, not telling your kids to brush their teeth one time instead of telling them every single time. Now, whatever it is, it truly doesn't matter. But the point is whenever you release that control and you see like, oh, disaster didn't happen. Oh, the kid actually did brush their teeth. Oh, the email did get sent and there was like nothing bad happened. Okay. That is one little step to help rewire that code. Now that's not going to completely rewire it because we need to do some other stuff first, but it's going to help, and it's going to allow your body to say like, I don't have to handle it all. Like I can release this and somebody else can help and support. Okay. And so again, those 4 steps are: know what's actually yours, don't store and try to control things, release it in your body, and then collect that evidence in your body. Okay. And so if you are struggling with this, like always wanting to control anything in life, business, life, relationships, whatever, it always comes back to because you don't believe that you're being held, that you're being supported, that you're being cared for. And you are, and you probably logically know that. Like you can look around and see God's abundance, but you don't necessarily feel it in the way that you need to feel it. Okay. Like you don't feel that God maybe is being that loving father that you really need. Again, you know that he is, but you don't feel that way. Okay. And that idea of control is really just to help you to feel better and to predict and to try to stay safe. Right. And so just think about, like, if you're struggling with this, think about when the apostles are asleep on the boat, right? Like there's a storm on the water, the waves are crashing, like everything's crazy. Jesus is literally asleep on a cushion. And I love that part in the Bible, how it says like on a pillow or a cushion, depending on the translation you use, because it's like such a minute detail, but it's so funny because it's talking about like he was still comfortable even in the storm. Okay. And he was asleep, not because he didn't care, but because like Jesus knew that God had this handled, right? He could sleep because he trusted that God would like provide and take care of not only him, but also his apostles or the people who were with him in the boat. And those maybe who were around him. I don't know what Jesus was thinking at the time, but that is the assumption that we're making right there. Okay. And so that is also what is available to you. It's not a life that's perfect or doesn't have ups and downs or doesn't have storms. What's possible though is the ability to sleep in the boat while it's raining, waves crashing, and know that God is still holding you and he is never, ever going to let anything happen to you, right? Again, it doesn't mean that things are going to be perfect. It doesn't mean that even death couldn't come, but it means that he will never, ever allow you to do anything on your own. Okay. So if you struggle with this idea of control, again, just really try to open up your hands this week. If you can't open them, just put your hands out and say, God, like you need to help me open these, and just look for one little tiny piece where you can start to release that control. And when your body starts to panic because like it's not holding on to the control, just keep reminding yourself that somebody stronger than you is already holding on to this truth. And it's just my job to make sure that I am doing my best to allow him to hold on to it. Okay. If you want to actually get to the root of why this control is such a big thing for you, then you're going to have to work deeper with me, because that's literally what we do. We go through all of the wounds that we go through your primary wound first. And then we go through all of the different wounds and the attachments that you have been lacking or that you have. And we really get to the root of them so that you can release that control without feeling like, ugh. That's like the best way to describe it. Or I had one client, she was like, I just want to feel like I'm not a psycho, right? Like she was not a psycho, but she felt like she was. And so sometimes that resonates too with people. So again, if you are interested in any of this, make sure you to look at the show notes below. Feel free to DM me on Instagram or send me an email. And praying for you and looking forward to next time.